Chapter 3. Echoes of Rebellion. Sunlight broke through the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. Zhang stood at the window of her high-rise apartment in Shanghai, her eyes fixed on the city waking up below. She still could not believe all that happened in the last few weeks. It ran through her mind like a fevered dream, each memory tinged with a mixture of exhilaration and fear. She turned back to her messy room, her gaze falling on the small data chip Lin had given her. It sat innocuously on her desk, a tiny piece of plastic and metal that held the power to shatter her world. With trepidation, May switched on her tablet, disabled all networking features, and switched her encryption programs, some of which she herself had helped design. After she was sure and did everything she knew to be as safe as possible, she picked up the chip and inserted it into her personal tablet. As the data loaded, May's eyes widened. The chip contained a treasure trove of information. Historical records that contradicted the official corporate narratives, testimonies from dissidents who had disappeared, and detailed plans for upcoming resistance operations pertaining to her specific project. But what caught her attention most was a file labeled Project Phoenix with a popping GIF on it that said "Read me." May took some long deep breaths. This was a one-way street and there was no going back now. She tapped on it. The file, Project Phoenix, was a plan to use her consciousness transfer technology in ways she had never imagined. The resistance aimed to create a network of shared consciousness, allowing people to experience the memories and emotions of others who lived before the corporate takeover. It was a product of extreme imagination and something barely understood by her own team, who were one of, if not the best in this technology, one that could potentially awaken the masses to not just what they had lost. This could enable them to identify propaganda and its possible intentions and potential outcome. Plus, it would also become an offensive weapon in response. It could speed up the problem-solving skills and reaction time of the resistance by several times, compared to what the corporations currently possessed. As she delved deeper into the files, a notification popped up on her tablet. She almost dropped the tablet thinking she had messed up the security protocols somehow, but it was just a calendar notification. She had the next set of meetings today at Quantech Dynamics. The sudden influx of her corporate life was so jarring she had to sit down for a bit, contemplating the enormity of idea being proposed by Link and her cohorts. This could change everything and not just take her ideas around the concept of digital immortality and cloning to the next level, but beyond what she had ever imagined. This was not just another project anymore. Thousands of kilometers away, in Greater Delhi, Arjun Patel was grappling with similar questions. He sat in his cubicle at Neurosphere, outwardly focused on fine-tuning some of the bugs in the social credit algorithm, while his mind raced with plans to throw a wrench in the very system he was meant to be perfecting. "Arjun, got a minute?" The voice of his supervisor, Raj Kapur, snapped him back to reality. "Of course, sir," Arjun replied, quickly saving his work. Raj leaned against the cubicle wall, his face a mask of corporate congeniality. Arjun could not imagine him being anything in life apart from his current role. If ever there was a human version of managers described in textbooks, it was Raj. "The board is impressed with your team's work so far, and they want to speed things up. How soon can you have a prototype ready for beta testing?" Arjun's mouth went dry. The next phase of the algorithm was designed to predict and preemptively neutralize potential issues with heartbeats. If implemented, it would make the resistance's work nearly impossible. I think I can have something ready in a couple of weeks," Arjun stammered, his mind racing on adjusting his parallel timetable to sabotage the project without raising suspicion. Raj clapped him on the shoulder. "Excellent. Keep up the good work, Arjun. You're going places in this company." As Raj walked away, Arjun felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. He needed to warn the others. The resistance's timeline had just been dramatically shortened. In a dimly lit basement in the outskirts of Greater Delhi, Zara hunched over a cluster of cobbled-together computer parts and screens. The hacker's fingers flew over the keyboard, her eyes darting between multiple screens displaying streams of code, while she barked orders at her personal AI. "How's it coming?" Rahul asked, peering over her shoulder. Zara didn't look up from her work. "Almost there. The firewall is tough, but I've broken tougher. Give me another hour, and we'll have access to Neurosphere's internal network." Rahul nodded, his face grim. "Good. We need to know what they're planning." Arjun's last message was concerning. As if on cue, a secure communication channel lit up on one of the screens. It was a message from Arjun, marked urgent. Rahul quickly decoded the message, his frown deepening as he read, "They're accelerating the timeline for the new social credit algorithm. We might have only a couple of weeks before it goes live." Zara cursed under her breath. "That's not enough time. We need to push up our plans and some of us will have work full-time on this for the next week." "Agreed," Rahul said, already compassing a message to be shared with the rest. "Tell the others, we're initiating Operation Awakening ahead of schedule." Back in Shanghai, Mei sat through her meeting at Quantech Dynamics, her mind only half focused on all the numbers and projections being tossed around the conference room. The other half was preoccupied with the implications of Project Phoenix and the risks she would be taking by doing exactly what she intended to do. As the meeting droned on, Mei's tablet screen lit up. A notification from an encrypted channel caught her eye. The message was brief but clear. "Operation Awakening is a go. Prepare for Phase 1. Mei's pulse quickened. Phase 1 involved using her position at Quantech to use her access the core systems of the consciousness transfer project. She would need to create a backdoor, allowing the resistance to tap into the technology without alerting the corporation and the rest of her team. She worked with some very smart people, and she had to do everything perfectly to avoid getting caught. As the meeting concluded, Mei gathered her things, her mind racing with both excitement and trepidation. She was about to cross a line from which there would be no return. The following days were a whirlwind of activity for both Mei and Arjun. By day, they maintained their corporate facades, attending meetings, submitting reports, and playing the part of loyal and passionate employees. By night, they worked tirelessly for the resistance, using their insider knowledge doing their bit to weaken the foundations of corporate control. Mei successfully created a backdoor in the consciousness transfer system, hiding it in a routine software update. The resistance now had a foothold in one of the most powerful technologies developed by Quantech Dynamics. Arjun, meanwhile, worked on subtly altering the social credit algorithm. He introduced minor glitches and inconsistencies, small enough to avoid immediate detection, but significant enough to sow seeds of doubt in the system's infallibility. Errors which will be made to look like mistakes and escalate public opinion on the social credit system from a guiding light to an overbearing toxic parent. The citizens will react, and the company will have to act fast, and that is where Arjun had planted digital landmines. One evening, as Mei was leaving the Quantech Dynamics building, she noticed a sleek black vehicle parked across the street. Two men in nondescript suits stood nearby, their eyes scanning the crowd of employees leaving work. Mei's heart raced as she tried to act natural, remembering Lin's warning about corporate surveillance. She took a different route home that night, using every evasion technique the resistance had taught her. When she finally reached her apartment, her device notifications popped up the moment she connected to her encrypted home system. It was from Lin, asking for another meeting at the Analog Oasis immediately. Something in the tone of the message sent a chill down Mei's spine. Across the greater Asia co-prosperity sphere, Arjun was facing his own challenges. During a routine security check at Neurosphere, he nearly panicked when a guard asked to scan his personal data device. Thanks to the encryption techniques provided by Zara, the device revealed nothing suspicious, but the incident shook Arjun up while he was already on edge. As he left work that evening, Arjun's paranoia kicked in. He took an unnecessary long and complicated route home, doubling back and changing transport methods several times before he felt safe enough to return to his apartment. No sooner had he walked through the door than his secure communication device buzzed. It was a message from Rahul. "Emergency meeting, usual place, now." The Analog Oasis was quieter than usual when Mei arrived. Lin was sitting at a corner table, her face drawn with worry. As Mei approached, Lin gestured for her to sit. "We've been compromised," Lin said without preamble, her voice barely above a whisper. "Someone in the Shanghai cell has been leaking information to the corporations." Mei felt the blood drain from her face. "Oh my god, am I in trouble? How much do they know?" Lin shook her head. "We're not sure, but we have to assume the worst. We're accelerating all our plans. Project Phoenix needs to be ready within the week." "A week?" Mei gasped. "That's impossible. We haven't even finished the preliminary tests." "We don't have a choice," Lin replied grimly. "If we don't act now, we might not get another chance." As the implications sank in, Mei realized that her life would never be the same. She was no longer just an idealistic scientist flirting with rebellion. She was now a full-fledged revolutionary, committed to bringing down the very system that had nurtured her career. And she can't afford to get caught. In Noida, Arjun arrived at the abandoned warehouse that served as the Resistance's local headquarters. The space was a hive of activity, with members huddled around computers and holographic displays. Rahul spotted Arjun and quickly pulled him aside. "We've got a problem," he said, his voice tense. "The corporations have figured out something is wrong. and are going to deploy new security measures any day now. It could lock all of us out of their systems. Arjun's mind raced. The new algorithm. They must have already implemented the beta version to detect anomalies in data patterns to spot potential issues, such as dissidents like him and Rahul. Rahul nodded grimly. Exactly. We need to strike now, before they can fully deploy it. Are you ready to release your virus? Arjun hesitated. The virus he had developed was designed to temporarily scramble the social credit scores across the greater Asia co-prosperity sphere. It would create chaos in the tightly controlled society, providing a window of opportunity for the resistance to act, but releasing it would also mean exposing himself to being identified by his employer, Neurosphere. I'll need access to the main servers, Arjun said finally. I can do it, but once I do, there's no going back. They'll know it was me. Rahul placed a hand on Arjun's shoulder. I know we're asking a lot, but this might be our only chance to break the corporation's hold on society. Are you with us? Arjun took a deep breath then nodded. I'm in. When do we start? Over the next few days, the resistance kicked into high gear. May worked around the clock, pushing the limits of the consciousness transfer technology. She knew that if she succeeded, Project Phoenix could awaken millions to the reality of their corporate-controlled lives. If she failed, it could mean the end of the resistance and quite possibly her own life. Arjun, meanwhile, prepared for his most daring hack yet, he meticulously went over every line of his virus code, knowing that a single mistake could doom their efforts. At night, he found himself lying awake, haunted by the faces of his colleagues at Neurosphere. How many of them suspected his true allegiance? How many would be hurt by what he was about to do? As the final day approached, tensions within the resistance reached a fever pitch. Zara worked tirelessly to strengthen their cyber defenses, knowing that the corporations would coordinate and retaliate with everything they had. Chen, the former Quantech employee, used his insider knowledge to help the resistance predict and counter corporate security measures. The plan was complex and fraught with risk. While Arjun's virus threw the social credit system into chaos, May would use the consciousness transfer technology to broadcast memories of pre-corporate life to millions of citizens across the greater Asia co-prosperity sphere. The hope was that this combination of practical disruption and psychological awakening would be enough to expose existing cracks in the propaganda machine that ran the entire region. The night before the operation, May stood on the balcony of her Shanghai apartment, looking out at the city she both loved and longed to change. The neon-lit skyline, once a symbol of progress and prosperity, now seemed to her a glittering facade hiding a deep rot. In Noida, Arjun sat at his window, watching the bustling streets below. He thought about his parents, who had always been so proud of how his life had turned out, the degrees and now his corporate life. Would they understand why he had chosen this path? Would they see him as a hero or a traitor? Though separated by thousands of kilometers, both May and Arjun were united in purpose. They knew that come morning, they would put into motion plans which would be impossible to stop once they began. They were risking everything for an idea of what it means to be truly free. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, May and Arjun prepared for the most important day of their lives. In Shanghai, May made her way to Quantech Dynamics, the data chip containing Project Phoenix feeling like a burning coal in her pocket. In Greater Delhi, Arjun entered Neurosphere, his virus primed and ready to deploy. The air crackled with tension as resistance members across the greater Asia co-prosperity sphere took their positions. In hidden bunkers and secret rooms, hackers and activists waited for the signal to begin their coordinated assault on the corporations. At precisely 9 a.m., Arjun initiated his virus. Across the region, social credit scores began to fluctuate wildly. Citizens who had been model corporate drones suddenly found themselves classified as dissidents, while known troublemakers saw their scores skyrocket. As confusion spread, May activated Project Phoenix. Using the backdoor she had created, she connected the consciousness transfer system to the resistance's network. Suddenly, millions of citizens found themselves experiencing vivid memories, which weren't theirs, memories of freedom, of cultural diversity, of lives not dictated by productivity scores and corporate mandates. The effect was electric. In cities across the greater Asia co-prosperity sphere, people stopped in their tracks, overwhelmed by the flood of new experiences. On the streets of Shanghai, Beijing, Delhi, and countless other cities, a ripple of confusion, panic and anger spread through the populace. But the corporations were not about to relinquish control without a fight. As alarms blared in corporate headquarters, security forces were mobilized. The hunt for the source of the disruption and the traitors responsible began in earnest. Teams of security professionals went into action. May and Arjun, their parts played, now faced the daunting task of escaping the corporate dragnet. As they fled their respective offices, they knew that the next few hours would determine not only their fates, but the fate of the entire resistance movement. The battle for the soul of the Greater Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere had begun in earnest. The carefully constructed facade of corporate utopia was cracking, and through those cracks the long-suppressed hopes and dreams of billions were going to clash with a carefully curated and managed control managed by the corporations. As May and Arjun disappeared into the chaos of their respective cities, they carried with them the weight of those hopes and dreams. They had struck the first blow in what promised to be a long and difficult struggle. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and the very real possibility of failure. But for the first time in generations, there was also hope for a future where humanity could reclaim its freedom, its culture, and its very essence. The echoes of rebellion were spreading, growing louder with each passing moment. The world was changing, and there would be no going back from what Arjun, May and many others like them had begun.